Hi, Patrick here. Have Cheetah Will View, 8 Questions with, and welcome to the show. That's right. Tuesday night. Little warmer here than usual. 38 degrees. Not too bad for a Tuesday night here in Michigan. Um, our guest tonight will be a screenwriter, film director, and small library advocate. Yes, I always push that out when I talk about John Oak Dalton because I think it's one of the coolest things. Hey, Jaden, how are you? Hi, Anna. Thank you for your early comment. That's awesome to come in and see. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I always have to talk about that when I mention John because I think it's such a cool thing that he does. Him and his wife does. They champion the free libraries, small free libraries. And in case you're not really aware of that, I put down the link in the description box of what that is. It's basically you build it's slightly bigger than a bird a bird watch, a bird feeder, I guess. It's and what you do is you put it on a steel pole and you put it up to about chin level high, and you put free books in there. Um, and anybody's free to donate, anybody's free to take. There's no oh boy, I don't know what that's up there for. Uh, oh boy. I don't know what that's there for. Tech problems. We had tech problems earlier today too with our interview with Christy. Not Crystal, with Crystal Martin. We had LA tech problems. Hey, there's my main man. Waffles is in the house. Uh, thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in. Hi, Anthony. How are you, sir? I loved your note, Michael. I cannot wait till the next Screen Factory haul. I will be there with bated breath, waiting for that next Screen Factory haul because I know what's coming. If you need any help in picking out your some of the movies, just let me know. We can help. That's right. We even have an IFC playlist all ready to go. In fact, Waffles. In fact, we even have next month's movie ready. At the ready. This is what we're going to be covering at the end of February. We're going to be covering the remake of Maniac with Elijah Wood, which I hear is superior to the original. I definitely will send you the playlist for sure. But I'm also going to send you. Also going to bring the John Oak Dalton's his IMDb page because we're going to be talking to him because he has started as a screenwriter. Now he's moving to becoming a full time director, I believe. And he is working on his new movie, which is called uh, uh, gosh, it's called Silent House. And I don't know what that is. I think it's psychosomatic. Whenever I have a camera on me, I'll get all itchy. I don't know what that is. It's called Smart House, and he co-wrote it with Richard Pierce. Richard Pierce has appeared on the show, and so John and Richard teamed up to write Smart House, which will come out later on this year. Scarecrow County is out that he wrote. Jurassic Prey. I just saw somebody actually review that. She has Noah Shark out. Of course, I reviewed one of his films. I reviewed Amityville Death House, and I also reviewed The Girl in The Crawlspace. Both very fine movies, and yeah, really, really strong stuff from John. And he turned into a little bit of a casting director for Smart House. He is going to be he actually cast Mark Polonia in an acting role, and I don't think Mark will be there for the paycheck. I think he'll be busting his ass trying to make a good impression. Um, yeah. Oh, Maniac. Yes, Maniac is very good. Um, not and there's a lot of good films out there. Right now, I'm waiting for Corsage to go down. I just got On the Road. I got that from Hamilton Book, and I also got The Nest with Jude Law and Carrie Coon. I got that from Hamilton Book as well. There are a lot of good Blu-rays on Hamilton Book. Um, I have seen Midnight Films for $5 and below. Good place to build up a collection fast. Hey, there's our good friend Echo Zero. He will be our guest here on 8 Questions With on Valentine's Day. That's right. Me and Echo will be here Valentine's Day, offering our love advice to all you love Lauren folks out there looking for the hookup, looking for the secrets of love. Well, that's what me and Echo are gonna do. I don't know how we're doing it. That's just that we're doing it. All right, let me tell you what's coming up on the old show because we got a lot of cool shows today. I just finished booking February today, so I'm very excited. The rest of the month is going to be really popping. Tomorrow night we have metal sculptor Kevin Stone will be here. I will be flaying the roads today, trying to get all you guys come out and watch that show because this is going to be absolutely crazy. Kevin and is just a master artist. I've been really blessed as far as getting actors and directors and whatnot on the show, but it comes down to getting artists. I've also been very, very lucky, and I've had on a lot of excellent artists, and hopefully getting more. So we have Kevin Stone tomorrow. He'll be here. We're also going to be dueling. We're going to be dual streaming that show tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be dual streaming. We're going to be streaming here, and we're going to be streaming on Facebook. So if you can't make it here on the tube, you can catch it on Facebook. Hey, there's Big Matt in the house. Welcome, sir. Welcome. I cruised over to your live the other day. I was just sitting there checking it out. A lot of friendship, a lot of good talk on the panel. So I was next time I will stand up and say, yo, hi. So I just don't I don't want to just I just want to let you know that I have been over there. I have enjoyed your channel, Matt. Very good stuff. On Thursday we have the lovely Debbie Scaletta will be here with us. She's done a lot of great roles in The Escape from Death Block 13. She's also done The Curse of Little Thrached. She's also done Cynthia. She's done some really fun movies. She's another one of those Ohio-based artists that we've been interviewing a lot lately. So we got another one, and Debbie Scaletta. And I've actually been wanting to interview Debbie for a little bit now. I was actually on my Grail list to interview her. So I'm very fortunate and to get an opportunity to do that. This Saturday on the 11th, at a special show. We have a special Saturday show at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. We have a special show at 1 o'clock on Saturday. We will be talking to the podcast group, The Friendly Men. Will be here at 1 o'clock on Saturday. And then on the 12th for the Midnight Society, me and the professor, we will be here on the 12th. And we will be talking about Blackula and Blackula Scream. All right. And with that being said, our guest is here, so let's go get him. Please put your hands together, share us out if you can, and please welcome one of our favorite directors, John Oak Dalton. Here he is.
Hey, howdy, Patrick. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, John?
Doing great. Thank you for inviting me back. I looked at our last one. It was about a year ago that we were on together on your other podcast, The Midnight Hour.
Yeah, but I decided to be selfish today. So I told the Midnight Hour that, you know what, it's just not going to happen. I'm taking over. I'm taking John and I'm running away with it. And, that's just how it is.
I just saw you had my friend Richard Pierce on a few weeks ago, not pretty recently actually.
Yes.
I listened in on that. That was the last one I watched.
Well, you'll have some to catch up with then, because we have interviewed a few between then, including Crystal Martin. We interviewed her this afternoon, and she's one of the breakout stars of that of the Christmas horror movie, The Mean Ones, the Mean Ones. Yeah, super nice lady, super talented. So yeah, Richard was really cool too, though. I'm anxious to see how that collaboration came to be, because he's very prolific. He's what is he? I think he said 6 screenplays last year, and
yeah, I think that's accurate.
Man, that's a lot. That's a lot.
He and I don't know if that's the official first question of 8, but he and I we've been writing back and forth by email for quite a few years, like since Richard was in college, I think. And he was just a fan of the Polonia brothers, and I'm pretty easy to find on social media, and my email address is easy to find. So he and I talked for a long time, and you know, his career's really taken off in the last couple of years, especially the last year, where he's just doing really great. And it's really neat to see. And after all these years of going back and forth on social media, he actually flew out here in December when we shot the movie that he and I wrote together, and with another guy. And it's the first time we've met in all of these years of knowing each other through the internet, as people do. And not only did he want to come out here, I think, to work on the movie, but I think his ulterior motive, and I can't remember if he talked about this on the on your show or not, Patrick, but he's a huge Garfield fan.
Yeah.
And his wife and his daughter and they spent some time trying to locate all of the Garfield statues around town, Muncie, or Indiana, where I shot it, which is also where Jim Davis is from. And went out by the old Paws Inc. studio. And, it's just a little different growing up in Muncie and kind of being around the Jim Davis, the Garfield phenomenon of that time period. It's just interesting to see a younger person that interested in it, where, Muncie residents, you sort of get used to seeing Jim Davis around now and then, or having some brush with Jim Davis, or I think my two main Jim Davis stories. One is that, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I had a cable access television show with a friend, and we it was all comic book reviews, interviewing comic book creators. It was all about comic book collecting. Well, the comic shop in Muncie, one of the folks there that was a regular, I come to find out, was the guy who was the regular day-to-day at that time period, was the regular day-to-day Garfield cartoonist. I mean, Jim Davis by that time was just counting money, so he really didn't have time to draw every day. And the guy who was the regular artist on Garfield was a comic book guy, and he was in the shop, and we invited him on the show several times and got to know him. And it was interesting to hear all about it from that perspective. But the story that I tell people all the time, which is kind of hard to believe, I think, is when I was a freshman in high school. So this is like 80, 81. My art teacher, and I was a cartoonist. If people follow me at all, or if you've even seen Scarecrow County, there's a lot of cartooning in it, and I'm just interested in cartooning and comics and everything, and that plays a big part in the movie. But in 80, 81, I'm cartooning, drawing, and my art teacher knew Jim Davis. And Davis was looking for a young person to come out to Paws and, clean out the trash cans and just kind of help around there. But they really wanted someone who was interested in cartooning. And my teacher asked, did I want to go to pause a couple days a week? And I was like, no, I don't want to clean out somebody's trash. I'm stupid, right? Because I'd be like a millionaire cleaning out the trash now. But I was like, no, I don't want to go out there and clean out somebody's trash. Plus, the other thing, which maybe you would remember, Patrick, but I don't know that all of our other fans would remember, fans of your show would remember, younger fans, is the old comic strip Tumbleweeds.
Oh, yeah.
By T.K. Ryan, Tom K. Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, T.K. Ryan also lived in Muncie.
Wow. I didn't know.
I was a fan of Tumbleweeds, not Garfield. So I really wanted to work for T.K. Ryan, not for Jim Davis.
Oh.
So that was my first big career mistake. But anyway,
I was a Garfield fan from the very first moment. The very first strip that he wrote, I was a fan.
Oh, yeah, I'll drive over here sometime. Look at all the Garfield stuff that goes on around here.
Yeah,
right? You're in Michigan, right?
Yeah, I'm in Michigan.
Well, I just drive on down. Well, when the snow clears, drive on down.
Yeah, once in a while I'll get a spur up to check out some Garfield cartoons. So, they have plenty of those of the collections. They have plenty of those at the library. So I'll go over there and grab a couple of those and come back and make myself laugh and then donate them back. But I always loved Garfield. I was always more of a Garfield fan than I ever was a Peanuts fan.
Oh golly. All right, right. That was my pregame. All right, I'm ready for 8 questions. I'm not going to talk. I won't digress any longer.
Okay. Question number 1 is what's your favorite Garfield character?
Oh, I will tell you that because my beloved Aunt Linda growing up was always our glamorous aunt, single and always dating cool people, gave good Christmas presents. My Auntie Linda. And back in the old days, you remember how in the early days of Garfield comic strip, John, the guy that owned Garfield, had a roommate?
Yeah, that was really short-lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, Lyman.
John was Jim Davis, right? That was based on him. And the roommate was based on Jim Davis's real roommate at the time, who my aunt was dating.
Oh.
So that's my favorite character.
Lyman. Yeah, I remember that. And then that's right. He was there for I think he was there for the first couple of years before he wrote him out to strip.
I don't know if then Jim Davis didn't have a roommate anymore, and that's why I don't know. But anyway, okay, now I'm really ready.
So last time we talked, we were talking about and hyping up the Girl in the Crawlspace. Last time you and I were talked on the Midnight Hour, and since then you have I think Noah's Shark was in post, and I'm trying to think of what else. I know that was in post, and I think there was one other one you were working on too.
A year ago. Jesse James Unchained is out now on streaming that I wrote kind of in that lockdown time, and that was directed by Enrique Couto. And and I went to Dayton, Ohio. It's about an hour and a half, and went to the set a couple days. And that was, he had the same problem. Tom Cruise making Mission Impossible and everything. Just all the COVID problems and things. Trying. So it was funny because I spent one day on the set and it was pretty cold. And then when I went another day, it was blazing hot. So, it was a long production process. It's a cool movie. I got to write another Western, and I believe it's been out long enough. It's on Tubi, which is got my entire career on it now. Hey, there's Richard Pierce himself back in the mix, paying me back for coming on his show. So there he is.
He just said that he just said, just heard the end of the Lyman story.
Oh, yeah. So I Noah's Shark came out, and I was hoping that a lot of Christian people would get scandalized, and they didn't as much as I hoped. And even more so, I thought the Satanists would all be behind me. And if you get on Twitter and look, quite a few Satanists were goofing on it. So I was a little disappointed. I was kind of counting on the Satanists to carry us over on that one.
The one movie that I thought would I know I was we're talking about Amityville in space too. We were talking about that movie last year because it was it got announced about this time,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit later on. It got announced, and man, I was hyped. I really thought that movie would really pop up, make Mark Polonia a household name because just the sheer audacity of it. I thought it'd be another, giant shark versus mega shark versus giant octopus. Trailer comes out there, it's gets national press,
Hmm.
and then he didn't he didn't promote it. He didn't really do anything. He didn't do any press.
It's funny because when that was in, I think Entertainment Weekly,
Yeah,
like he didn't know about it till I called and was like, "Man, you were in Entertainment Weekly." He was like, "Oh, really?" Like he did. I think
yeah,
that Mark is he's just like Teflon. He's
yeah.
not really on social media. He doesn't read reviews. He doesn't really pay attention to anything, which maybe that's saved his sanity over the years. I don't know. But even
It's a
the
it's
good
a catch
thing,
22 though. It's a catch 22 for
it
me.
is because a big part of it is,
Yeah.
I think he certainly is promoting your work. And,
Mhm.
I think behind the scenes, though, I mean, he's elevated a lot of people in the industry, especially early on in his career. He's always been helpful to other people um, in that regard. And he's very open to people reaching out to him and things like that as well. Um, but yeah, I don't think that always has translated to the public eye as much. He's never been interested in leveraging to a different level or another level, or just to put himself out there in a different way. But he has a very he lives in a very remote area, and his infrastructure is all right there, and that's what he's interested in. I think he told me one time. No, I think he told me one time. The two things that I've known in my life is that I was going to make movies, and I was going to marry Maria, his wife, when he met her. And those are his two main things, his family and his movies. I think everything else, you know, leveraging into some other kinds of work, or, trying to get the hype machine going or anything like that, is not really in his interest. And, and like you said, that could be to his detriment. But I
Yeah.
think the niche that he's carved out for himself, he's doing, exactly what he wants to do and no more than that. And, that's
But
fine.
I feel sorry though. If it was just him, if it was just if it was just him, right, and everything was on him, I could understand that. I really could. I could understand that. But when you don't, when there's a crew that's working with you, when your actors are working with you, and investors and what have you, or screenwriters in your case, to me, it's part of the deal is you go out there and you promote yourself, you promote your work. That's the scene. I mean, it really comes across. There was a movie that I watched called a Ghost Story. It came out on A24, and everybody was hyped up about this movie. Everybody was hyped up on it. I went and I watched this movie, and John, that movie was a love letter. It was a love letter. You could definitely see it was a love letter. Impactful, meaningful,
Mhm.
emotional, and but it was to the writer, the director himself. He wrote it to himself. He was in love with himself. There's nothing else in that movie that's relatable to anybody else watching. There's just like there's nothing there for you and me. We would watch it and be like this. You know,
Hmm.
uh, there's nothing there. And to me, it's like that. I don't understand how you can make a movie just for just like, okay, I'm gonna make these movies, and but I'm just not gonna promote them. I'm just gonna make them, but I'm not gonna help them get out there. I'm not gonna because helping the movies get out there, helping them get that press, doing what you're doing what Richard did, getting out there, promoting yourself, promoting others. That's the reason why you make a movie, to be seen. You want it to be seen. And when you don't do any press, when you just sit there and roll it out one after another, after another, after another, like an assembly line, I just to me it's like why are you making movies again? Why are you doing it? I mean, what's the purpose?
I think I would definitely say in directing my movies, you do feel the burden of responsibility, I guess I would say, because in a way, because nobody intends, I don't think in general, people don't intend to make bad movies. Everyone has a stake in it. And I always have said to people, be proud of your part of it. That's the only part you have control of. Be proud of, if you're the PA or you're an actor, you know, but because people have given their weekends and their time, their talent, their treasure in some regards, um, like they're investors. So your time, if you're volunteering, you're working as a PA or an actor, your talent, so in all those regards, and then your treasure, your own monetary or the money you didn't make because you were working on this movie. I mean, I think there's a responsibility there to try to put everyone's best foot forward. No one wants to, no one wants to hear that their movie was bad or their actors are ugly or the script was stupid or,
Or
things like
or
that.
worse, not hear anything at all because
I'm
no one.
not hearing anything at all. And it's that is difficult, because I think everybody, in the B movie world, they want to see that X leads to Y leads to Z. If I do this, maybe someone will see it and I can do that. And then if I do that, maybe I can do that. Nobody wants to go down or stay the same. They want to try to and if they think, for me, just from my experience with my first couple movies that, I'm sort of like, now I feel like I can say to people, I relied a lot on friends a lot more at first. And I've tried to stretch a little bit more each time because I can say to people, hey, my first two movies are on Amazon. They got in Family Video. They are in Walmart, now they're in Dollar Tree, but they're out there and and you can see them and people will know that and so if you give me a couple weekends of your time, you'll have something. What shocks me even more than what we're talking about with movies that are out there is all the many people that have been involved in projects that are going nowhere and never coming out, or maybe they're going to be four-walled in the director's hometown or at the community center or something, but they're
Right.
never going to be really distributed. They might be sold at a convention, at a card table at a convention, which is how I was going to do mine originally. So I can't criticize that. But I mean, people give, there's a young lady has a small part in Scarecrow County. She was only on set, a couple hours. But I remember her telling me that she, maybe a summer or so before, she'd taken 2 weeks on vacation to star in a movie. And then she real casually said, well, I don't know if that's ever going to get finished. I've never really heard anything more about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow,
Now,
that's
welcome to Hollywood.
crazy. I asked for a couple weekends of people's time. I never asked anyone to take 2 weeks off to star in a movie that I have no intention of it, of a plan on how it's going to get out there. So, but that's a whole nother level that are all the people that have given their time and nothing is coming out. Tell the actor I have the movie, The Girl in the Crawl. Oh, thank you, Ed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good
Uh,
job, Eden.
thank you, Ed. I
Yeah,
think that's Ed in movie room and not Eden movie room, but Ed in the movie room. Well, thank you for getting that, Ed. I hope you liked it.
yeah,
Okay, so that was our first question is favorite
yeah.
character Garfield. What's number two?
Have you now that you've done two movies though? I mean, you're right. I mean, a lot of B movies they have the best of intentions, but a lot of them never get. They don't ever get made. They don't. I know one movie that got started. They got off to a great jump, and then it died because of COVID. Right? It's like but they after the COVID got over, they reunited and ended up finishing their movie. It's going to be coming out later this year, even though they had a year of break in between when they started it and when they picked it up. But to me, it's like you said, your movies are, now they're out there at Walmart, they're out there. Yeah, they may be in Dollar Tree, but like you said, they're out there. People will, and people will have a chance to watch it. And more importantly, people will actually be able to come and listen to you talk about them.
Yeah.
To me, it's one of the reasons why I love about special features on movies, like the Girl in the Crawlspace, is I could turn it on, I can go to the special features, and I can listen to your thinking behind the scenes. What do you
Yeah.
think? And or do it, or listen to you do an interview like this. It's really refreshing to hear a filmmaker talk about his craft, or a screenwriter talk about his craft, and it's just, to me, it's like I said, you have like you said, you feel like you have a responsibility to your not only to yourself but to your crew, to promote the movie and to make sure as many people as possible see it. And last year what we did was we really were trying to capture lightning in a bottle. We really thought that last year would be the year for Mark, because we're going like, wow, that's awesome. He got national press. The trailer came out. The trailer was, a lot of people had a lot of fun with the trailer. People were doing guest spots. We did a Polonia week. We did a Polonia week. I watched Amityville Death House. I liked it. My buddy the Bat, he didn't like it so much, but I liked it. I gave it a thumbs up. I thought it was good. So we did Polonia week, and I'm thinking to myself, this is it. Mark's going to come out. He's going to do an interview with Steven, who's probably Mark's biggest fan, and yet nothing. And then you didn't hear anything about the movie. Nothing. I didn't see anybody here in our community, our horror community. I didn't see anybody review it. And they got copies. That Rob sent them copies. I never saw anybody review it. I was like really surprised by that.
Yeah, it is hard. You don't know what's going to capture the public imagination, or where. I mean, you just never know who's going to get on the rocket or when, or what may cause someone to jump. Our good friend Richard, who's on here now. I mean, he's one of the hardest working guys I know now, and he just got to that tipping point, and it tipped over for him, and now he's really working hard. Matter of fact, he was telling me just a couple hours ago that he's got a new project that just he is just getting the paperwork on today that he pitched. So sometimes you can be right on the tipping point, and it not just the ball just may not bounce for you. But I do think some of it, in Mark's case, he's very happy with what he's doing. He's very happy with I'm doing this and this. John Oak, will there be any more movies? This is Ed.
Yes, more movies from John. Definitely, we're going to be talking about Smart House here in a minute, because
good.
Yeah, that's going to be that's your new movie. I know we Noah's Shark came out. I watched Noah's Shark.
I'm very happy with the script. I thought it was extremely funny.
I did too.
I don't know that everybody got the joke though. But I know you watch a lot of play. I thought that Ryan Dalton, who played the televangelist, he reminded me so much of a young John McBride, and I've never met him. People think that he's my son somehow, but maybe, I don't know. I didn't go to Pennsylvania back in those days, so I'm pretty sure he's not. But I didn't have any wild Pennsylvania flings back in my childhood days. But anyway, Ryan reminded me so much of a young John McBride in that. I just couldn't help but really like him. And I have always said that I have my favorite Polonia movies that I personally am not involved with, and one of them is, I think, Amityville Exorcism is one of their just better solid movies. Hello, Hobbs. Hey. Yeah, I saw that, Hobbs. Thank you.
Forest Primeval.
And I liked it. And so when I wrote Noah's Shark, I didn't really even talk to Mark about it. I just made Father Benna a character in it, because I also like Jeff, like working with Jeff, and he has a voice part in both of my movies that he did remotely. And I just wrote it for Father Benna, and I thought, well, if Mark can't get Jeff to come down, it'll be fine. They'll just make it Father somebody else. But Jeff did, and so now we have kind of an unofficial quasi trilogy of Father Benna movies with Amityville Exorcism, Noah's Shark, and then he's in Amityville in Space as Father Benna. So that's kind of an eclectic life for a priest, those three movies together. But actually,
That's pretty genius. I actually think that is genius because I think it's cool that you can put an established character because
Mhm.
who was it? Van Zant. I think Ken Van Zant. Kevin. I know that he has played Duke Larson. I think in 3 or 4 of the movies.
Mhm.
So I think that's just I like that idea of having a continuing character throughout these movies. I think it's a smart play.
I actually wrote him into. I've got another film that I wrote for Mark that I wrote some time ago, and it's done, but for whatever reason it hasn't come out of the Wild Eye machine yet, and it's a little exclusive. It's called Jurassic Exorcist, which I also wrote for Father Benna, but I don't believe that Jeff could play. He couldn't be there at that, so somebody else, and it may be Titus Himmelberger might play the priest in it.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but it's not. I wrote it for Father Benna, so when that comes out, that's an unofficial Father Benna. That's an unofficial Father Benna movie. Yeah, Ken Van Sant. I've met a couple times when I've been out there, and he's in. He stars in kind of that the Holy Grail of lost Polonia movies. Well, it's been called a million things. Black Mass. It was recut as Army of Wolves. He's in it. But anyway, I met him then, and then when we were shooting Real Monsters, which is out now a couple years ago, which is like a kid-friendly movie. I was out there, and a lot of it was shot on his land. He's got a big tract of land with woods that you are very familiar to Polonia Brothers fans. And we were out there shooting one day, and he came rolling up, and we chatted for a while. But he came rolling up in a Jeep, and he had this, like a gun in a holster on his hip, like a cannon-sized gun hanging there. And I was like, man, but they got bears and everything else up there where they shoot all these movies. I know Mark one time chased a bear down the street that was in his trash. So it's not uncommon, but just seeing Ken roll up in his Jeep with a big 45 or something hanging on his hip. It was pretty funny to see that. I thought, you playing? I said, are you in the movie, Ken? No, he just came up. He looked like he was in the movie. He had this big gun on his hip, but I assume it was for scaring off bears, which kind of gave me a little pause when I heard that. But
yeah. I think it's a Jurassic. I'm trying to wrap my mind around Jurassic Exorcist.
Oh, I loved writing that one too.
How did you come up with Jurassic Exorcist?
Oh, it came with a title, and then after that, Mark really didn't care. It just had a title, but it's about a priest who a dinosaur is frozen in ice kind of thing, and somehow I forget now what. Somehow it gets dynamited out, comes back to life, but it's also possessed by a demon. So they get a priest to try to exorcise the demon out of this rampaging dinosaur. That's the intrinsic plot of it.
I think I don't know if I asked this or not, but have you ever just like when you're writing like that and you're furiously working on it, and then you stop to catch up with what you read? Do you ever make yourself laugh when you go back and read what you write?
Not until
what you wrote, but because of
sometimes many years later, once I've forgotten about what I did, sometimes I look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that was pretty fun." The one that makes me wince though is Peter Rottentail, because I did that in like a really long weekend, and I just was saying whatever and putting whatever, and now I listen. I've seen it since then because people watch it like on Easter a lot of times. It's like a tradition, where I get on Twitter or Facebook on Easter or around Easter, and tons of people are watching it. Fangoria did a podcast about, so I just am always reminded of it. And sometimes I think during COVID, I did a tweet along with the group on Twitter. Thanks, Hobbs. It's just embarrassing to me as an older guy because I wrote that when I was, or rewrote it really early 2000s, maybe. So 20 years ago. So I was like in my 30s, you know, and I was just being irreverent. You know, it was before. It's not very politically correct. The greatest movie ever made. It captures a moment in time. I think it is very funny, but it kind of makes me wince now. Like, oh God, I can't believe I was just letting everything fly and saying whatever. And I think it helps that Bryce Kennedy and Dave Fife, who play the cousins in it, they just had a lot of chemistry and they were funny. They were naturally funny themselves, and that made it funnier. And I don't know. I think that's the only one I ever look back and go, oh golly, that's a little too much. But you know, it's a product of its time, really, literally. I have a lot of fond memories of it. I think I've told this before that the late lamented John Polonia, had sent it to me for a rewrite. It was called Psycho Clown, and they wanted to rewrite it to do a rabbit movie because they had a costume or something. But it was handwritten in a notebook. It was handwritten on paper, and so I literally, as I was typing it into a screenwriting program and rewriting it, you know, reading it and rewriting it. I kind of did it over really kind of a long weekend, really feverishly. And I couldn't even remember what I was talking about half the time when I was doing it. But for some reason, if I had known, you know, 20 years later, people would still be talking about it or wanting to know about it, I probably would have been more careful when I was doing it. But it was one that John had done, and then I just molded into a new. I did the same with Razor Teeth. They sent me that and I rewrote it, but they ended up not using much of what I did, and I don't think that one really holds together very well. As a matter of fact, that's one you don't hardly hear anything about. And I did it right after Peter Rottentail, but Peter Rottentail has just been around and around, and there's repeated viewings. Somebody sent me a picture of a cake that he made in the shape of Peter Rottentail's head for Easter, stuff like that. It's just funny.
It's weird how that works out.
You just never know. It's what's going to catch fire like that. You know, I was kind of not hoping. I feel like Noah's Shark may be one of those that kind of hangs around, because I've seen more. Like, I go on to Twitter all the time and look up movies that I've worked on. I like to interact with people on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram to some degree, and Noah's Shark is talked about a lot. And so that may be one that kind of hangs around for a while. A lot of them just
cool. Sharky, like I talked about a lot too.
I didn't work on that one, but yes, it did. And I know Mark's in post-production on another shark movie right now with kind of an outrageous premise. So I just finished something for Mark, and that hopefully will be shot later this year. And then, you know, my movie that I shot in December is in post, that I hope we'll see later this year as well.
Is it getting a little bit harder though, John? I mean, because your projects are more serious. I mean, you know, Girl in the Crawlspace, Scarecrow County, you know, now The Smart House. I mean, your movies are directing. They're how do I say this tactfully? I mean, they're to be taken more seriously than Mark. I mean, you get a Mark movie and you know what you're getting.
Yeah, but people know, and he's got fans. People know, and he's got his fan base and everything. I think I'm to the point, because I've probably got, I've probably written 50 some screenplays for other people, and probably 20 something is out of those, you know, 2 of which are mine. I think I'm to the point where I have to have a reason for doing something.
Yeah.
Like, I want to try something new. I want to write something different. I want to do it because it sounds interesting. Noah's Shark. I just thought, I would love to talk about organized religion and do some funny riffs and write another part for Father Bennett. I mean, there was reasons why, when I was off for Dune World, also known as Sand World now, because of hilariously, some people thought it was Dune and not. I don't know how you could get it confused, but some people thought it was. They read it or streaming thinking it was Dune and not Dune. It was Dune, so they had to change it to Sand World. But when I wrote that, I was like, I want to do like a 60s psychedelic style sci-fi romp, and I love Russians, like Soviet Union science fiction movies. I wanted to riff on that, and so I'm to the point where if I'm writing for other people, it's something that I'm interested in doing. There's got to be a reason, like I'm going to stretch myself in some way, and some of it is because it'd be fun. Some of it is maybe I did a movie called Things 666 for Joe Sherlock, who's an Oregon filmmaker that I've known. I've never met him, but I've known for years and years and years. And I've always wanted to work with him, but he lives in Oregon and I live a couple thousand miles away. And when I was doing Scarecrow County, I was like, Joe, could I use some of your talent over there? Because I like them and I've got all these voiceover bits, because this woman has psychic kind of impressions and she hears voices. And I said, could your folks do all the voices? And I'll pay you back someday. And also, would you make a scarecrow mask for me? And so then he did all that. And then fast forward a little bit, and he was doing Things Part 6 and Part 7. Is that right? Or was it? No, he was doing 7 and 8. I forget. But he was doing them back to back, which is now a big thing, right? A producer hires you to shoot 2 movies back to back. And so, to make it cheaper.
Right.
And so he was hired to do 2 movies back to back. And he'd written one and was working on it and asked if I would write the other just so he could speed the process. Sure. I've never written a part whatever of a franchise. I've always wanted to write a franchise horror movie. Plus I owe Joe a favor and Professor Macabre. So that's why I did it, so I guess I'm to the point, but yes, I think sometimes it's difficult when people don't get what you're trying to do when you're writing for somebody else because it didn't turn out the way you intended or what have you.
Maybe mentioned that last time.
Myself, that's why I make the movies for myself that are just for my interests. Because then I
think the divide is starting to come out. I mean, when we talked before, it just started, and I think now I think the rift is pretty clear now. And I don't see you writing the movies that you're directing. The movies that you write for yourself, like Smart House and Girl in The Crawlspace and Scarecrow County. They're traditional horror movies. They're traditional. They're not made with with the shark movies. Your movies are made for. Yeah, I could sit there buy Smart House and see a solid entertaining movie. I'd be entertained by it. Girl in the Crawlspace, I was very entertained by that. Whereas like Sharkula, or Noah's Shark, I'm just gonna get the Velveeta, and that's okay. That's okay. But I just sense you as a filmmaker. I just sense that you are doing that really is not. I just get the sense that that's not really what you want to go do in the future anymore. You might write for other people, but you want to write more serious stuff, more traditional. Do you think
so? I probably would not write as much as I used to because partially I'd like to make 2. I'd like to make 2 movies. I mean, before COVID, that was my goal. I shot 1 movie in 18 over spring break. That was Crawlspace or spring break from my work. I work at a college. And then in 19, I shot Scarecrow County, spring break from work. And then in 20, March of 20, well, everybody knows what was going on. I was 1 night away from shooting a movie and taking spring break off, and we were sent home. Literally on Thursday, I was in March of 20, on a Thursday night, I was scouting a location and taking pictures, and I had made the sandwiches. I mean, I cast crew, everybody coming in the next day on Friday. Well, that day at work on a Friday, and I was taking the next week off for spring break, we were told at the college, okay, everyone's going to be gone for spring break and 2 more weeks, and then we're all going to be back and COVID will be over. That's, that's what everybody thought, right? I was like, okay, we'll be gone 3 weeks. So I could have shot that first weekend, I think, of the movie. But then by the next weekend, everybody, within a week, as everybody remembers, we knew we weren't going back in 3 weeks. Matter of fact, I didn't go back for 17 months. It was almost a year and a half that I worked from home, sitting right here, actually, which is why my lighting and microphone's better than it was when we used to do this back in the day. But
Right.
So I'm glad I didn't start that movie because, a couple years later, people have moved on, and the house could have, they could have sold some of that furniture. I know one of the actresses I was going to use has had a baby since then, and another one has joined the military, and I would add half a movie, which would mean I'd have no movie, nothing that would ever be able to come out. So
You really not make a movie then.
but now
that's the difference. See, you would not make that movie now, where some they wouldn't care. They still would have made it anyway, regardless. But see, I think you treat your writing a lot more. I think you respect your writing a lot more. That's how
I try to.
Yeah.
I try to write more serious for myself, and also because I'm going to be the only one to blame for it. So, I took 20 and 21 off like a lot of people did, just trying to figure out how to get back into it. And then here at the very end of 22, actually it was probably around September-ish, I got an opportunity to work on a movie and just to start a new movie. And it happened so quickly, I didn't have time to worry about that I hadn't directed anything. It was, 22, and I hadn't directed anything since 2019. But it came together really quickly and easily. I made a very, very Smart House is a really small movie with not too many locations or people, talent. So it came together really quickly, and I'm excited about it. We're in post. Just gave the second pass on the edit to my editor, Eric Whiting, who's made some of his own films that are really good. He's made a couple films in the Dayton, Ohio area that are pretty good. Anyway, he's my editor. So
there's a lot of talent in Ohio, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Well, my DP Enrique Couto is, a pretty established Dayton filmmaker, and I've always admired his kind of troupe of people that he's had around him, and I've relied on that, for my own movies because it's not that far. Matter of fact, this film, we shot a weekend in Indiana, and a couple days in Dayton this time, where we actually rented we had the money this time to rent an Airbnb, and the crew stayed there. It's my Indiana crew, and we had Ohio is super big right now, and we had Ohio people join us. The cast is kind of split. Our lead person, Iabu Windermere, who's been in all 3 of my movies, she and her husband has been too. We shot at their house in Dayton, which has been the location for quite a few independent films and that are shot in the Dayton area. And then the weekend in Indiana, I shot at my son's house primarily. And my great friend, Tom Cherry, was sort of the lead person in that part of the film. And he's been in all my movies. He was the sheriff in Crawlspace, and he's the Uncle Brownie in Scarecrow County. And in this one, he plays Iabu plays like an online influencer who gets trapped in a smart house. And you don't really know if she's got mental problems, if the AI's gone crazy, if someone else is manipulating the smart house AI. Meanwhile, her father is Tom Cherry, and he, through various circumstances, he finds out that she's trapped in there, and he tries to hack in remotely. And I think it turned out pretty good. I'm happy, and I had Brink Stevens. I was really flattered that we wanted to try to get a bigger name to do the AI voice, because it's got the third most after Tom and Ia. The AI has the third most lines, and I kind of and I thought, well, this person could record, and we could maybe get a bigger name for it, since it would not be as prohibitive, to we'd have to fly somebody out here or whatever. So the actress Brink Stevens, who is really well known in B circles, was from the 80s and 90s, was really, I wouldn't say her heyday, but certainly when she was really well known, but is still making films today. And we were able to get her the script through Enrique, and she really liked it, which was really flattering. And she recorded it, the voice for it, and did a really super job. So I think that's going to be a nice surprise for people when they see the movie. And I think people will recognize her voice too, if you know who she is.
Sure. You put Mark in your movie.
Oh, I put Mark in it too.
Yeah.
Because he's so well known, and his voice, his rural Pennsylvania accent is so well known. I thought it would be nice to give him a little voice. He has a voice part, and he plays a guy that runs a red room, which I thought would be really funny for Mark. It's like a little nod to the fans, I guess, but he has a brief voice part. He's called the conductor. And he was really, yeah. Thank you. That's my friend Joe Sherlock that I was just talking about. I don't know if you were on when I was talking about you, Joe, but yeah, it was. Brink has a great voice. It was very cool. She was part of that was.
No, I think that's a great idea.
He's very he was like, I reached out to him. We over the years we owe each other some favors. I haven't really asked him for too many, and I was like, I'd like you to do a voice in this. Send it to me. And he asked me a question or two about things about it. And then, I don't know, maybe 36 hours later, there was the file. And there was his release, and, his talent release. And, he's just a really professional dude. Joe, I was just talking about how Joe Sherlock in Oregon, I was telling the story about how you did how we traded work when I needed help with Scarecrow County. I didn't really need help. I wanted to work with Joe, and then I was able to help Joe with the script for Thing 666, which is out now. As a matter of fact, I actually saw that. I went to Cinema Wasteland, which is a huge Ohio show for people at our level. And I saw it in the wild, Thing 666.
Oh, nice.
I never had seen it in the wild, so it was really cool to see. But Joe, you'll have to watch the tape so you can you have to watch the recording when we're done, so you can see that I was giving you a couple shout outs. So anyway, so I think we're still on question number 2.
Yeah, I think we're.
No, I'm sorry. This will be question number 3.
Yeah, so we're number 3. So where did you come up with the idea for Smart House? Was it your idea? And tell us how I want to hear your side of it. How did you and Richard end up meeting each other?
Okay, so Richard Pierce, I talked about earlier, is a person I've written back and forth with on the internet forever. And he's really he's been on the rocket the last year or two with writing Lifetime films, doing really well, and they're really good, really, really cool movies. He had pitched Smart House to Lifetime and didn't go. And so he had asked if I wanted to work on something with him. And I was like, man, you are like doing really well. You don't need to worry, you don't need to go down in the gutters with us micro cinema people anymore. But he said, no, I've always wanted to work on something with you. And so we just started kind of putting the pieces together when we found out we'd have an opportunity to pitch it and to the company put out my other films. And so very quickly we wrote it. Richard has a old friend, Luka Vikovic. I'm going to get his name wrong. Who um, is wanting to break into screenwriting, and we brought him in to help. He actually wrote the opening scenes and a couple things. I think Richard made my script better, my ideas for it better, because I'm focused a lot more on characters and situations, and I don't really think that much about dramatic 3 act structure and beats and things like I probably should. I really don't. But Richard, that's his bread and butter. So, this movie has a lot more action beats and a lot more scares and jump scares and things like that I typically write characters and situations and conversations, but Richard was much better about going through and really making it crisp. So I think it's the best script of the ones, just because it's a lot more traditional script in its execution. It was harder to shoot than my other movies because it has a lot of action and little beats and little scenes, where my scenes have a tendency to go on and on, but this had a lot of little scenes. So
How long is the movie, John? I mean, how what's this runtime?
Same as my usuals, it'd be 75 minutes, an hour 15.
So you did you do that on purpose, or it just happened that way?
I like to run a little lighter.
Okay.
I do like to be 75 minutes is the minimum. I may end up with a longer movie someday, but I like them to be in and out, So
But that's what I mentioned that to Richard too when we talked, and I mentioned it earlier and another time too about crawl spaces. Like, most of the time you always hear these bloated movies coming out, and they're like 3 hours long, and it's just like, Jesus, you can't cut anything. And whereas crawl space came out, it was like, man, that crawl space needed another 15 minutes.
Sometimes I think that. I think the hard part is, I mean, every time you add something, another actor, another location, something, you're adding more money. And that's Richard saying thanks for the kind words. And when you just don't have the money, it's you just realize it starts to grow exponentially. The bigger you make something, or the longer you keep at it, the more money you're adding out of what you raised or out of pocket or whatever it is. So I try to be cognizant of that. I do think, I probably could have gone a little longer with both. This one's also that same fashion. It's pretty brisk runtime.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't done we're not quite at the picture lock stage, but I bet it'll be pretty close to my other film lengths.
Was it easier for you to get the financing based on your success with Scarecrow County and Crawlspace? Was it easier to get the funding for this one?
Well, our producer Enrique Couto really went to bat to get that, but I think my opinion, because I was not involved in that part of it, but my opinion is, if the other movies weren't successful, we wouldn't still be able to go in this avenue. So I think so. I wasn't involved with that part of it, but I think the films that we've worked on, that Enrique and I have worked on together, have a natural progression of how they were put together and funded and distributed. There's been a progression, a positive progression. So I think yes, I think that's ultimately the answer. Although, I'll just say ultimately that's the answer. Yes, I think it is. I wasn't the one in the room, doing all the pitching, but I think we wouldn't have been able to do those things if we weren't able to show a pattern of success. Yes.
So how has been the state of filmmaking in Indiana since you last talked? Has the success in your area, have people noticed it? Like, hey, John's released 3 movies and they've all gotten really good press, decent press. lot of viewings. They're in sales and stores and whatnot. Got distributors. Has that helped? Do people come out to you now? Or are they coming to you with either wanting to act in your roles or collaborating with you on writing? Has that improved?
Definitely, I would say a few ticks more. Yes, it's if you subtract the couple years of COVID and then just connect the end of, let's say the end of 2019 to the beginning of 21, then yes. But there was a long fallow period for a lot of people there for about 2 years during COVID, like everybody. So it's hard to gauge. I will say, being a screenwriter, nobody cares about you if you're just screenwriting. But when I went to Cinema Wasteland after several years away, I hadn't been since before COVID. So I really hadn't been since my movies had come out, basically, because both my movies came out in 20, even though one was shot in 18 and one was in 19. Crawlspace came out basically yesterday in 20, and then Scarecrow came out in October of 20. So February and October. So I hadn't been to any conventions since my two movies had come out. And definitely there's a difference being a director instead of I've been a screenwriter for 20 years before I ever directed a movie, and no one really cared about that. But directing a couple of movies, you definitely get more attention or more notice or more interest, or people wanting to talk to you about stuff. When you say you're a screenwriter, people don't care about that, even though screenwriting is very important. I think a lot of times in the B movie world, people write their own movies. I was the first person to write a movie for Mark Polonia. I was also the first person to write a movie for Enrique Couto, and who are both prolific filmmakers. And so I think that says something. But yeah, I do think it has changed a little bit, because they've had some longevity. They've kind of been around. I've joked about them ending their natural life in Dollar Tree, but I think more people have seen them since they've been in Dollar Tree or on Tubi, which I think Tubi is this crazy. 2 years ago, I didn't even know there was a Tubi. And now almost everything I've ever worked on, including very obscure things, is on Tubi.
Yeah.
And so, including both of my movies I directed, but stuff that I worked on years ago, that has never been available anywhere on Tubi.
Tubi's sort of like a catch-22 now too. It sort of reminds me of the early days of Amazon.
It is. Well, Amazon kicked the legs out of underneath people, and that's why all that was taken off of Amazon. They went from paying good by the minute to paying ridiculously low by the minute. And it's funny, Tubi, it's all of a sudden a gigantic thing.
Yeah, it's like walking inside Tubi's like walking inside of a Blockbuster. You walk inside a Blockbuster and look around at all the movies. Tubi's like that too. You can just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's like, holy shit! This is new on Tubi. What? I think when you say new, I think what you do add on every movie from the last 20 years.
Well, even more so, lots and lots and lots of independent movies that wouldn't have never been anywhere else. They're not even on Amazon. They'd be hard to find. But there's a ton of people that I know that have their movies on Tubi that haven't been available other places, and it's really, really crazy. But if you're a horror fan, Tubi is like mom and pop video. Yes, it is, Joe. If you're a horror fan, Tubi is like a gold mine because it goes. There's tons of old movies, tons of obscure horror movies.
I just want
reading a lot about, which is to me really interesting, is like what's called urban films or black films are huge on Tubi, and there's a lot of independent black films that haven't had other outlets that are getting a lot of attention, especially ones that are shot kind of speaking of Michigan, shot in the Detroit area. Detroit's becoming a real hotbed for like making kind of like Lifetime style movies, with black casts and crew. And I think it's really, I don't think that phenomenon would have existed without something like Tubi.
No, they do a lot of the Tubi movies that are on the Tubi exclusive. They're like either Lifetime movies or or old movies, Oprah Winfrey type movies.
Yes.
Uh, um, it is crazy. I mean, the amount of films are there are just absolutely. I just covered Martyrs for the first time. I watched and covered Martyrs for another show, and the original Martyrs,
Yeah,
not
I
the
don't want to watch that, but I'm
not,
glad you
not,
did.
huh?
Not my stuff.
Oh, Martyrs. Yeah, Martyrs was a good movie, but it was one of those things like irreversible. It's like, all right, yeah, this is a good movie, but I'm not in a hurry to see it again.
Yeah.
You know, but
I don't
but
have the
yeah,
headspace for stuff like that anymore. For that kind of stuff, I just don't have the headspace for. I don't want to. I'm
yeah.
afraid of putting stuff in my head I can't get out again. So
It's
that's
funny. It's like the older I get, the more I want to go see it. Before I would like
interesting.
young, I was like, but now I'm a little older, and now it's sort of reverse. It's like, okay, I want to see it, just to see what it's about, and I did, and I covered it, and it was just like, wow, I for the first time since I've been on YouTube, first time ever, and I've got over 800 videos. I put a disclaimer on there. I said, like this, if you watch Martyrs, just be careful, and the talk we're talking about, it's just is be aware of what we're talking about. I've never known how to do that before. I never had to do it at all. Never even thought about it. But when I saw Martyrs, I'm going like, and I saw the Human Centipede, and it's just like, and I'm going like, yeah, Martyrs is because Centipede is more, yes, it could happen, but it still has that edge of fantasy into it, sort of like science fiction-y, a little bit bio horror, body horror. Um, but Martyrs was just like that was just fucked up. I mean, it was fucked up. Um, yeah. I put a disclaimer down, Hobbs. Yeah, but I just thought it was a proper thing to do. Um, so I mean, I love the fact that you guys that you guys met online,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be. Did you do it like a lot of? Do you guys when you do what? Do you guys write together at the same time, or you
Hmm.
just email each other back and forth and then do
Hmm.
conversations like we're having now?
It's interesting
Between
because that's actually the first script I really wrote with somebody. Like I've rewritten other people's scripts, but I was just sent, especially John Ploney. Rewrote several scripts for him, but they were basically just sent to me, and then I did a pass and sent them back. I didn't like talk over. I rewrote. I've rewritten a couple things, at least one thing for Henrik that wasn't produced, but I did do a rewrite for him one time. I did a rewrite of and I'm surprised this isn't on Tubi. It's a really good movie. I rewrote for a guy named Christopher Sharp years ago called Sex Machine. It's kind of like a Frankenstein movie that was shot in Oklahoma and it's very hip. I'm surprised it hasn't made it's a cult type movie. And but again, we didn't go back and forth with notes, but with Richard, he and I much more did that. We were much more collaborative. So it's really the first like true collaborative script that I did where it was he's the one that brought the idea. And I think it was like when we first started talking about it, it's like, oh, I could see it. I feel like if somebody pitches something to me and I could see it, like see the movie, then I feel like I could do it. And so when he was telling me this movie he had pitched that hadn't gone, I was like, this might be maybe we should try, maybe this is something we could try. Maybe this is something we could try. So that's what we did. We talked quite a bit about, I think I did. I think I might have done kind of because I wanted to direct it. So I think I did a round of pages that kind of laid everything out because I knew like what we could do, like what I could afford and what we had, where we could shoot, how many, I think I kind of sketched it in. And then Richard and Luca did some work on it. And then I think I got it back and kind of massaged all that. And then I think they took one more pass and then I took one, but we had notes and talked the whole time. Thank you, Hobbs, for recommending that. Will I be in Syracuse? No, I don't think I'm going to be there. The closest I get is Elmira when I go see Mark. That's not very far from where he lives.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, it was very collaborative, and I think Richard and I, it's hard to know the future, but he and I are planning on working on a couple more. Although Richard just got hired for a new gig today, so I think he's going to be pretty busy for a while. But there's something that a couple years ago, the movie I was going to start, that I literally the night before we were going to start, the day we were going to start, my office went into COVID restrictions, my work office. I gave Richard a co-writing on this script, this thriller, because he had pitched me he had read a draft and given me a bunch of, this is before he'd sold his Lifetime movies, but he was definitely in that mindset. And so I offered him a co-writing credit, even though he didn't write on it. He had pitched a bunch of ideas. So, fast forward a couple years, and I'm like, do you actually still want your name on that? Because now you're a big time Lifetime writer and everything. And he said, yeah. And matter of fact, he kind of thought he could take a real pass at it, like really do some writing on it. And we may try to pitch that one, because now a couple years have gone by, and I'm not quite as discouraged about it falling apart at the last.
No,
I really like the script. So
I don't see why you couldn't do. I don't see why your writing skills at that level where you could easily do a Lifetime movie. I mean, you could do a Lifetime movie. I mean, they want certain things in every movie, and as long as you know what those are, I guess, like the 5 key elements.
Yeah,
one,
I think there is kind of
have limited jeopardy. Was the one I think reasons? I think when you do a Lifetime movie, you got to have the mom's got to be in danger, the daughter's got to be in danger, the best friend's crazier than shit, and then there's a rogue cop, and then there's a boyfriend. I think those are like the key elements in Lifetime movies.
Yeah, typically. Yep, I think this is a great interview, says Ava, and Ava also got done eating. Okay, thank you, Ava.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think Richard is a little disparaging about his working for Lifetime. It's very rigorous, I think.
It's great.
It's rigorous and demanding, and and Richard's done so well with it. He's done so well with it that this is his kind of. I know very few people that this is kind of their main thing. It's not a side hustle. For me, it's a side hustle. I have a day job. Work at a college, and but really, Richard, it's his main thing, and so he's been really successful, and it's very difficult. I would love to be involved in something like that. Obviously the money's better working for something like Lifetime, or really writing for Tubi Originals and some of these other things, but it's very demanding, and I have a day job, so I can't drop everything and start working on a rewrite or a draft. And that would be really difficult. And I think, like what Richard's done to be successful at it and write 6 movies a year, you've got to make a commitment to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, John. I've done this when Richard was here too. Writing for Lifetime. I mean, you know what? Yes, please. You got what they want. You know how to deliver. It's like the writers that write for Hallmark. They write those Hallmark movies out, and yet they may seem formulaic, but they do make the money and they make people happy. But a lot of times it's just basically the same plot. The only thing that's different is who you cast in it. That's really the whole key. A lot of the movies are the same, but you just change out the cast members. But who cares? Because and people know this. Fans aren't stupid. Lifetime fans and Hallmark fans, GAC fans, they're not stupid. They're like country music fans. They're incredibly loyal is what they are.
Well, yes, they are. Horror fans, same way. They're very loyal. They'll follow you to the end of the earth if you're honest with them and you're not disingenuous. You're not, they can smell a rat. But what's funny about people that disparage Lifetime or even like romance novels or romance films, the truth is, like, I belong to a group on Facebook, paper book collectibles, that they collect what's called men's adventure paperbacks of, like,
Oh,
40s,
the
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s,
the executioner.
yeah, and further back, noir writers, all of that stuff. And the truth is, those basically have all the same beats of Lifetime movie. They're just
Yeah,
written in a different, but they're, and people consume them at a certain level.
yeah.
And they understand that that's what what they're doing. And I love
Mhm.
reading pulp fiction, but I actually mix in. I read a romance novel, genre novel, every thriller type intrigue, like Harlequin intrigue or something. I read one once in a while just to keep an understanding of it and to sort of be articulate and everything, because and when you read them, they're not that different than reading a
No,
Gold Eagle executioner book,
no,
honestly. It's
no.
just what
It's like guys making fun of women watching soap operas. Oh, you're watching soap operas, and yet there they are Monday night watching wrestling. It's
yeah.
like you can't get much
or
more soap opera than wrestling.
or read
You know?
X-Men comics for 10 years of continuity and all the stuff that goes on, all the ins and outs of a big group like Avengers or X-Men or Justice League. That's the storylines are not that different in that as well, with romantic ties and somebody's dead and then they're alive. I mean, it's really not that different. It's just
No,
what you're
no.
interested in. Okay, Hobbs
Um,
is telling me there's a lot of paranormal and spooky history in Dayton. A lot of people have told me that, Hobbs, that there's a fair amount of spooky stuff around here, actually.
I, I'm
Um,
thinking. I thinking you should do a pumpkin exorcist, and Dayton.
little known fact. So I live within sight of a graveyard. So does Mark Polonia, and
Oh wow.
so does Enrique Couto. So these two directors I've worked with and myself, we all live within sight of a graveyard. And I don't know if there's something to that or not, but actually, I have. It's interesting. There's a fair amount of spooky history around here as well, and I think there's two things. So my friend Enrique Couto, who is a director, but he also is a podcaster. He has a weekly spooky, which is a podcast with horror stories and such. And he's also does like a true crime version of it. And I wrote one for that about about the Sylvia Likens murder, which took place in Indianapolis. And it's been made into it's been the subject of a couple films, and it's really terrifying and grotesque. And a filmmaker friend of mine named Ivan Rogers, who I kind of came up with in the business, who's died, he was really interested and involved in the Sylvia Likens memorial. So, but it kind of creeped me out even to write the little true crime thing about it. Anyway, her name it's SylviaLykens, Sylvia Likens. And I wrote a thing about it, and it kind of creeped me out to sort of. So then, not that long after, Enrique and I were talking about this unsolved double murder of two kids I went to high school with. Pretty in the 80s. This is a pretty big story, and there's been a Dateline. There's been a lot of show. It's been on a million true. It's called the West Side Park Murders, and it's there's been a book about it. It's been on Dateline. There's been quite a few podcasts, and two kids I went to high school with that I knew. The young lady that was murdered lived in my neighborhood growing up, and I thought about writing a piece about that, and I was like, nah, I can't do that. So yeah, maybe I should dive into the Dayton spooky scene, since the
Yeah,
Muncie, Indiana spooky scene's kind of bothering me a little bit.
yeah. I mean, because there's no reason why you can't write a movie like that and have fun with it. Put your own style to it. I mean, there is a style to your writing. I mean, that.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Ed is asking if I've seen Halloween Ends. I have not seen that. If you're asking me, Ed, no, I have not. I'm behind on movies. I would say too, a lot of my influencers are farther. Like when I'm looking for movies, if I have time, I watch a lot of older movies. Like my influences are much more 60s and 70s film more than contemporary. I mean, I look for the hot new things if I hear something interesting, like I watched Barbarian because I'd heard so many interesting, Nope, things that you hear that are The Menu, things I hear that are a little more offbeat. But I haven't really been following the new Halloween remakes and so on, so I'm a little behind on that. But I'm sure I'll catch up if I ever get a chance to catch up.
What was your favorite movie that you watched last year?
Oh gosh, I keep a really good journal of all the books I've read, but I don't keep a really good. I should start keeping a tab of all the movies I've seen, because then I can answer a question like that. I'm not really sure. And I usually, like my wife and I, she's an English professor at Ball State, and we typically don't even, like, during the week, we don't watch movies at all. We might get an hour of TV in a night, sometimes half an hour. A lot of times, she writes and I'm writing, or I spent a lot of the last few days working on the second pass edit notes for my editor on Smart House. But we're working on projects. She likes to play guitar and so on too, and so we'll do kind of more. I mean, by the time we get home, make dinner, clean the dishes, do all that, and then we spend an hour or two doing our creative stuff. It's like 9:30. I'm old, so I don't stay up super late because I get up early. So I try to go to bed by 10 or 10:30. So we might watch an hour of TV, and then on the weekends we'll watch movies, like Friday night, Saturday night. We'll put on a movie. So, and then, and if I have just a little free time, I'll usually, I like to read or
Right.
put on something that's on TV. So, and a lot of times if I have free time, like if I'm really working on a script, I'll get up early in the morning, like 5:30, work for an hour, get ready for work, take my computer to work, close the door at lunch, work for an hour on my laptop, come home at night, work an hour. Even if it's not, sometimes it's writing and sometimes it's gathering stuff like talent releases, or it's working on edit notes or something. But yeah, if I'm really grinding on a project, I don't have time to watch a lot of TV or movies, which seems counterintuitive. And I guess that's why I draw on more of my history of movies more than contemporary things, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned reading because I just really got back into it, and I found myself during a sale in my library. I found all the Lucas Davenport Virgil Flower movie by John Sanford.
Yeah, I read
Yeah,
all
those are all entertaining as hell. Especially the Virgil Flower ones. The ones with Virgil in it, they're a lot more. They're funny. At the same time, yeah, they're a little bit, definitely, a little bloody, but they're a little bit lighthearted and more fun. And
Yeah, I like him.
I really enjoy him a lot. So we got Silent House, or we got Smart House coming out this year. You're continuing to write. You and Richard are going to be probably making a pass for the you're going to redo and make another pitch for a Lifetime. So things seem to be going really, really well for you. I mean,
I feel like we might be. I'm hoping that, like, I'm on the cusp of maybe being able to do more. I mean, I think every time you should try to do something different or push yourself a little bit more. One time Enrique Couto told me that you're not really a director until you direct somebody else's script. And so I didn't entirely do that, but because I did do a pass on Smart House, but this is the first time I really did. There was definitely, it was definitely somebody else's work that I contributed to. So that was that was a new challenge. So we have I think the challenge for me this year, 23, is I'd like to try to do 2 movies. I usually shoot a movie around spring break. The way this happened this year is the movie Smart House just happened to come together right at Christmas time. So I sort of realized, I could shoot a second. So
Yeah.
right now I'm kind of thinking the same thing. I might pitch something new, and this movie, Smart House, should be done in March. When it materializes in the world is out of my control at that point, but I think it will be done by the end of March. Not I think we will be done we have to be done at the end of March. And then I'm going to pitch something else, and I'd like to do one movie in the spring, the one that Richard and I wrote together, and it is I guess the short pitch of it is a guy gets a internet bride, like a Russian internet bride. It doesn't. If it went well, it would be a short, but it doesn't go well, so it's a feature. So that's the pitch for that one. And then I've got something else that is just now brewing that, again, Richard and I are talking about, and I could see us maybe doing that later in the year. But that's how I'm going to try to push myself this year, is to try to make 2 films.
Now, if that happens, I mean, will that mean? I mean, it's obviously not friend wise, but as far as collaboration wise, will that you'll just continually to gently separate yourself from what Mark's been doing? Because I think your vision, no offense to him if he's hearing this, no offense to him at all, but I definitely think that your vision and his are too different. I think you see yourself, you want to go this way and he wants to go this way, and I can see that and I can understand that, and that's cool. That's cool.
I don't know. I think Mark gave me my first break, 25 years ago. So I always will have a space for him, and if there's stuff that
you
I would still like to make a movie with
many times over.
Well, Mark and I still talk about. I've been out there many times over the years and worked on movies. I'd still like Mark to come out to Indiana.
Yeah,
and it's about a 13-hour drive. I've made it many times now over the years. I was out there in I forget what year we shot Real Monsters. I feel like it was 17 was the last time I was out there. But I'd like for him, he and I talk now and then about doing a movie together. I would direct and he would shoot for me, and just see what it would be. We get along great as
sure. People. Yeah. I
don't know. I have him come and stay at my house and get to know my people out here a little bit.
Well, hell, I can understand. I understand why you make your trip out to Elmira. I do. I mean, you told us the secret the last time you were here, and that is Mark's wife is an excellent cook, and she always.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Super nice lady.
When you said Jurassic Exorcist, when you said that, the first thing came to my mind was, well, that'll be another dinner at the Polonias.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't go wrong with that.
We actually one time, my wife and I were coming back from vacation. We were out in kind of the Boston area, and we took kind of a detour-ish kind of thing and stopped in Wellsboro, where Mark lives, and spent the night at a hotel there and had dinner with his family. And we had a really nice, just hang out kind of thing one night. Had a really nice time, and it'd be nice to host him. Mm-hmm. So I do think, to your point, Patrick, if I'm going to work more, I need to develop my own projects more. And I need to, if I'm going to do that, I won't have as much time to write for other people as I have in the past. But so Hobbs is asking me, could I use Scarecrow County theme? Well, I think that I try to make all my movies have a Midwestern. So yes, they are connected in that they all have Midwestern themes, and I try to make them so there's something that differentiates. I try to make, like, I'm afraid, I should say, there's a lot of people that can shoot a movie out here in the Midwest and they try to pretend like it's LA or someplace else. And I never do that. I always make sure it's really got Midwest roots. And that's really, what Midwest Film Venture is, which, Enrique Couto and I started together. It's a Scarecrow. There's a Scarecrow. And the short version about that, Hobbs, is with Scarecrow County. My DP for Crawlspace, he's from Dayton, big city. and had come over here to where I live in this really rural area, was like, man, this is like Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, as like a joke. And we got to talking about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. And the day actually that we did the director's commentary for Crawlspace at his house in Dayton. And I was like, yeah, we started talking about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow again, the movie. And I said, if I was to make that today, I don't think I'd make it about a mentally disabled person. I think I'd make it about a gay kid, because that was a real issue, when I was a kid, that, kids that, were beat up, closeted kids that were beat up or terrorized. And that's kind of the plot of the original Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, a mentally disabled man that's terrorized and dies. And then he wreaks havoc on these adult men and that was kind of the premise of Scarecrow County.
Did you see the sequel to that, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow? Did you see the sequel to that?
I have not, although some people have told me about it. It's made by all the same people and stuff. I understand.
Yeah, the same guy wrote the first one. He wrote it, and then he directed it. But it came out like a car crash. Like someone took the car and and rolled it down the hill. Was totally shocked at how poorly that movie was made and acted and everything. It was just like, wow, but no, nobody I saw liked it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, not a single person. But it was his property, yes, but I don't know what happened. He just, was just not very well cast, very well budget. Yeah, it just was really treated, really nobody liked it. It's like it was a movie that didn't need to be made. But
yeah, the first one, which was a TV movie, is really a classic. And I had seen it. I think it came out in the 70s. I'd seen it as a kid, but we talked about it so much when we were making Crawlspace that like the week between the 2 weekends that we shot, I rented it and watched it. And then so when we finished Crawlspace, that's when I talked to Enrique about it. So it is kind of funny that definitely led into Scarecrow County. Just the idea of, well, if I was, that was really the sins of our childhood was gay bashing, that kind of thing. That was the sins of our childhood. And that's what I wanted to revisit more than, what was talked about in the first film, which was, the torment of a disabled person. So in the new one, it's about a woman trapped in a house and AI. But yeah, I tried to make it about, father-daughter relationship.
I like that concept. AI, seems like every week on the week, it seems like there's more and more things going on with AI.
Yes, and I hope that this movie can get out quickly, because there's a lot of people wanting.
Right, half the movie. Half of YouTube, a lot of the reels that people do on YouTube, half of them are AI. You have AI writing newspaper articles now. Mm-hmm. They are AIs writing. They're writing recaps on ESPN. They're no longer writers; they're actually machines now. It seems to be getting more and more sort of like the Terminator.
So my colleague Richard here is saying he liked Scarecrow County because the protagonist was a librarian, which is what Richard does for a living, or what his training is.
Yeah, I sent Richard a plug today about a librarian over in Germany and Sweden.
That's like one of the most asked questions I get about Scarecrow County is that a real library? Which it is. It's in Parker City, Indiana, and it's a library run by, at the time, it was run by volunteer women in like a service group. And my wife was one of those women who had volunteered there for many, many years. And so I rented that building one day when it was closed, but that was a real library. I wish I'd been able to take more advantage of it and shown more angles and so on. But, you shoot so quickly. We only had it for one day, and everything you see in the library there was shot in one super long day. So I didn't get to show it to its full potential, but it definitely is a real library.
Hobbs is asking if I saw Scarecrow County. No, I did not. I was not able to get a copy of that yet. No.
You can watch it free on Tubi now, Patrick. I think it's free
Oh, is it
on
on
Prime
Tubi?
too.
Okay, I can do that. I have to watch. I have to watch Tubi tonight anyway. So after this is over with, I'm gonna make coffee, and I have to watch a movie called Escape from Death Block 13.
Is that the one that has the guy that looks like Charles Bronson in it?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I'm curious about. He's done his other one. I think is called Death Kiss. I think. And his name's Robert Bronzy. I think the guy who looks like Charles Bronson. And I'm curious about those movies myself. I'd kind of like to see those.
I'm interviewing the lady in it. She plays the warden, the evil warden. Her name is Debbie Scaletta, and she's based in Ohio. And supposed to be. It looks pretty interesting. It looks all right.
There's always an evil warden, though.
Yes, yeah, they got to have an evil warden. So she is our evil warden in this one. So I'm looking forward to that. And Hobbs is sitting there saying, "You can try and find me one." Let's see. Richard said he saw Death Kiss, and I gotta say, the dude looks exactly like Bronson.
He does.
He does. He does.
I don't know what he sounds like. I haven't seen his movies, but he does look like him.
And I'm very impressed that Scarecrow County actually has a scarecrow in it, because that's been a bane of a lot of Scarecrow movies. They say Scarecrow in it, but they don't have a Scarecrow.
People like I didn't realize until I did the movie how much people really like Scarecrow movies. So I think that's why there's a lot of Scarecrow.
People like Exorcist movies too. I'm seeing.
Yeah, there's a couple. See, Scarecrow Exorcist. These things are just writing themselves now.
Oh my God, Jurassic Exorcist. Man, I'm so there.
I am too. I hope it comes out.
No, you said that's what Wild Eye has that movie right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Rob.
I think that's the last. I think that's the last movie that I have written that hasn't come out yet. And then, yes. No, there's two more, but that's one of them. There is two more that I have written that are in production or are produced that aren't out yet. So, but after that, I don't think I'm going to work unless I owe a friend a favor, or that somebody makes me an offer that's something I really want to do. I'm probably going to spend 23 working at trying to work up 2 new movies.
Okay.
That's my goal, is to make 2 new movies. One of them is probably going to be, hopefully will be the one about the internet bride. And then the other one is Richard and I have an idea for, but I'm going to leave it at that for now, just in case.
Sure. Yeah,
the other one's ready to go. It's got a script and everything.
Can't mention it until we see it on the database page. Yeah, I know. You know, I'm gonna love Scarecrow County. I loved Girl in the Crawlspace. I was a big fan of that. I'm sure I'll be a big fan of Scarecrow County. And
I made it very different, so I'll be curious what you think, because my Girl in the Crawlspace is much more, comes from a my tradition of, like I like auteur theory. I like 70s films, long takes, tight close-ups, letting things play out. And then when I made Scarecrow County, I really tried to make kind of more of an 80s, 90s style movie with fog machines and blue gels and Dutch angles. And I don't know, a lot of people like it. I don't think I like it as well as my first movie, but my first movie was more personal to me.
Scarecrow County, is it more noir, or is it straight up horror?
It tries to be more of a horror.
Okay.
I think that really Crawlspace is more of a thriller, but Scarecrow County is more of a traditional horror movie. My new one, Smart House, is really a thriller.
Yeah.
And my one after that, the Internet Bride one, that's really a thriller. I think that may be more my genre, but we'll see. Writing for other people, I really have enjoyed writing horror, but I don't know. Patrick, watch it and then tell me what you think. Okay.
I definitely will. I'll be looking for Scarecrow County.
On movie, so
yeah, I definitely will. And then when you get a Smart House up and running, let us know. We will talk about it. We will review it. And I'll even try to get a couple of your cast members on here, and we'll talk about it.
That sounds great.
Sounds great. Uh, yeah, you know what? I can't let you go without talking about the other thing I want to talk about a little bit. So I'm going to keep you for a couple more minutes if I can.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about, because we got to talk about this, because it's always one of my favorite things to talk about when I think about you is the small free
Oh
libraries.
yeah, you told
Yeah,
me you were going to start getting into that last time I talked to you. Did
and
you?
I did. I have actually gotten into that. I donate on the average. I donate four things a week.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are there
yeah.
a lot around where you live?
Yes, we have three.
That's great.
I
Well,
have
since I
three.
started doing it, two have been built. Not very. One's only about a half a mile from me, and when I started doing it, there was none. And then there's one the next town over, a bigger town about 10 or 15 minutes away, probably has two or three now. So it started to become more ubiquitous and more well known. The one in our little town down the road here, I really try to keep. I don't take a picture every time I go down there now because I go there a lot, but that's kind of my go-to when I'm dropping books off. But now, like my wife and I do a lot of camping. We have a little camper. I always take a box of books for when we're going camping, and the good thing now is there's an app now for little free library. It used to be you'd have to use the website, but now there's a little free library app that has a map in it, and you open it up and there's your location. You can see within 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles. And now I use that when we go camping, and always take a box to visit new little free libraries. Usually they're an unusual. I mean, a lot of them are at people's houses, but there are a lot of times at parks and
Mhm.
historic sites and courthouses and things like that. So I have visited. Now during COVID, we would get a box of books and get in the car and drive around for 8 or 10 hours all through Indiana, Ohio, just because we were going crazy at home. But now
Right.
we don't do it as frequently. I mean, I populate the ones all around me, but more likely when we're taking camping trips, or actually my when my granddaughter was born over in Greenville, Ohio, about a month ago, I took a couple books and looked around the hospital. There wasn't one right there, but I looked around the hospital for one. So it just becomes a thing of interest, and it makes you go places that you wouldn't necessarily think to go. And it's also, you promote literacy, and mostly I leave books, although I have found a couple really good books doing that. I was at a campground in northern Indiana earlier this year in the summer, and right inside the park they had when the park was running, and it was full of things because people were always camping and leaving books. And I read stuff and took them back, and then I took a couple with me. But normally I leave books. So, but
Yeah,
weren't you telling me you were also going to put DVDs out?
that's what I've been doing. I've been doing
Oh,
four
excellent!
Yeah, I put four DVDs out. I do donate my books that I read. I donate them back to the library because I get the money.
Right.
But physical media is, it's like I don't know. To me, I just think it's so fun to do physical media. I'll go in there and I'll leave something in there, and then I'll go back the next week. And I got to be honest with you, every time I go there, whatever I put in there is gone.
That's cool.
The books are still there from last week. The movies are gone.
Yeah. I put
So
comics out sometimes too. I've been at some where people put audiobooks or movies. So I think it is becoming there's a bigger footprint for it. So I think that's cool.
yeah, I
Um,
have never taken anything out though. I have not. I just feel like I
You're
get my
probably
copy.
90% put in and 10% take out. I'm probably the same way.
Is that really how it works? I thought it was gonna be the other way around. I thought it was gonna be like 90% of the people take out and 10% people put in.
Oh, maybe that's true of other people. I probably 90% put in.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
me.
have
Yeah, me. That's me. I would actually sit there and say 100% because I have not taken anything out of a free small
you start
library.
traveling around a little wider. Actually, the last, Patrick, I don't forget where you are in Michigan, but a summer ago, not this summer, but last summer, we camped in Ionia and took some day trips. Kind of, you have to maybe look at it's between Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor. No, Grand Rapids and I forget
Grand
Ionia.
Avenue. Yeah, that's
But
way outside of the state.
yeah, so we went there, and there were a lot of little free libraries. in that neck of the woods. So
I have three. I have three within a mile from me.
That's really excellent. I have one in within half a mile, then one a town over, and then maybe 2 or 3 15 minutes away in a big town. So, but when I started getting interested in it, there was zero around. There wasn't any within half an hour of where I lived. So yeah, it is neat. And the one in our little town, there's no library in our little town or anything, and people use it, and it's in like a pot, and they put it in the parade, they put it in the fair parade the last year where they went down on a float. So
wow.
Yeah, they're important to people.
I've had people come up to me when I put in. I try to do it when no one's there, so because I don't want to just put the 4 in there and then they rush over there and grab the 4 out of it. So I wait till it's quiet, then I put it in. But I have been asked about, what do you put in there? Like, what kind of restrictions? And I go like, I just say, read the room. You're at a park with families. So I probably would keep everything, PG-13, PG.
That's a good point. If I see him at an elementary school or something, I'd be careful about what I put in, stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't put in. I do it at one of them. I do it at elementary school. I make sure that the books or the movies are all PG or below.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else I don't put there. I put the R-rated stuff or the TV series, the mature series. I put that in the part for more adults. But the kids, the elementary school, I just put kids books there.
That's cool, Patrick. Well, I appreciate you inviting me on. Don't wait a year before you invite me back, though.
No, I promise you that will not happen. We will go ahead and when it's Smart House and Post now.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping.
Okay. Well, when you
get ready later, I'd like to see it come out in the fall. Around in October. That's always a good time for movies. For our
October's the best.
That'd be great. But you never know. They might drop it in the summer. They may hang on to it till 24. But I bet it comes out in the next.
Haven't come out in October. That's known as a spooktacular, and none of the
30 Days of Horror. They want to see.
Oh yeah, Hobbs Horror. He runs the Spooktacular. He has a massive. It's all month long in October, and people make videos and they, there's movie reviews, there's deep dives. I mean, he's just king of Halloween, and so we do all sorts of cool things in the Spooktacular, and then at the end of it, he has a big drawing, and then he hands out goodies. It's sort of like Christmas in October, is what it's like.
People are making more and more of it every year, so that's my hope. But we'll see. Patrick, I appreciate you asking me on, and thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I had a great deal of fun. It was nice meeting Joe and Richard. Thank you for coming out and supporting it. The interview, I appreciate it. Thank you to my chat. Tomorrow night we have metal sculptor Kevin Stone will be here. Oh my gosh, I'll send you a link to that. You got to come check this guy's work out. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the most coolest thing. In fact, when you see it, you'll probably want to go, I could write a movie around that. And you probably could. Kevin Stone will be here with us at 8:00. And then on the 9th September, or 9th, Ohio-based actress Debbie Scaletta will be here with us at 8 p.m. on Thursday. And then Saturday, special 1 p.m. matinee show, I will be interviewing the podcasters, The Friendly Men. And one of them is actually based in Turkey. And him and I were talking on Instagram when the second earthquake hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're busy, Patrick. Thank you for squeezing me in. I'll talk to you all soon.
Yep. Talk to you soon. All right, folks. Thanks so much for watching. I'm not sure if there will be a boneyard today. If there is, it'll be held on Mr. Bones' channel. If it is, we will put it out and float it out there. If not, I will see you guys tomorrow night for Kevin Stone. Thank you for your support. I couldn't be here without it. Have a great night. Thank you, Ava. Appreciate it. Thank you, Casey. Night.